So, dear participants, organizers and speakers, good afternoon to this webinar regarding the urban regeneration model developed in Remourban. My name is Mathieu Grosjean, and I work in Stuttgart with Steinbeiß Europa Zentrum, which is leader of the Work Package 7 regarding exploitation and market deployment for Remourban. We muted your microphone to prevent from having perturbation during the webinar, but if you have any question, please write it in the everyone's chat box. Please also notice that this webinar is recorded for the Remourban website and YouTube channel. So first of all, let me present you the structure of this webinar before we dive down to the project. We will start with a short presentation of the project Remourban. Then Ezra Demir from Demir Energy will introduce you the urban regeneration model as responsible of the Work Package 1 development of a replicable model of urban regeneration for Remourban. Afterwards, we will look at the demand side and the integrated and sustainable urban plan with Owen Harvey from Nottingham City Council, managing the implementation of solutions in the lighthouse city Nottingham for Remourban. And then we will see how to match the demand side and the supply side thanks to the replication methodology and the smart city technology packages presented by Zoe Lejeune from AREBS, responsible for the Work Package 5 concerning replication in Remourban and the follower city Seraing. At last, we will answer your questions and welcome your comments. But first of all, what is Remourban? Starting in January 2015, Remourban is a smart city project financed within Horizon 2020 by the European Union to the amount of 23.8 million euros. The lighthouse cities implementing the solutions of these projects are Valladolid in Spain, Nottingham in the United Kingdom, and the municipality of Tepebashi belonging to the city of Eskişehir in Turkey. And the follower cities analyzing these solutions and defining the effective way to replicate these solutions are Seraing in Belgium and Miskolc in Hungary. As usual for H2020 Smart City projects, the consortium is composed of sub-consortia supporting the lighthouse cities, and these sub-consortia are usually made up of a municipality, a university research institute, and companies specialized in the following points: energy, retrofitting, transport, and ICT. Some representative of the follower cities, and some organizations supporting the whole consortium. Here on this slide below, you can see the different organizations of Remourban. One of the main goals of this project is to validate an urban regeneration model, implementing energy, mobility, and ICT technical, financial, and social solutions to build smart cities. It has some low energy district targets with 34% of energy consumption reductions and 50% of CO2 emissions reductions to reach through the implementation, namely of retrofitting, monitoring, distributed electricity generation solutions, but also optimizing solutions for district heating and cooling systems. This project implements also some sustainable mobility solutions, for example, electric vehicle, charging infrastructures, logistic solutions, improving multimodality and user-friendliness. Other important technical solutions implemented concern integrated infrastructure, namely like smart grid connectivity solutions, city information platforms, optimized traffic flow solutions, and collaborative information transfer. This is, in a few words, Remourban. After this presentation, a question comes naturally. What is this urban regeneration model. Before that, I forget to mention about it. Do not hesitate to come and register on our website, Remourban website, in order to get access to the new information regarding Remourban and some technical solutions. So now, what is the urban regeneration model? I think that this is now what Ezra Demir will answer. Thus, Ezra, the floor is yours. Ezra, we can't hear you at the moment.
Sorry, I have to start again. Sorry. Do you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you, Ezra.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Esra. I'm going to make a brief introduction to urban regeneration models that have been outlined by Remourban project partners, and I hope you can hear me well now. Urban regeneration model defines a procedure, a methodology composed of several phases and decision-making processes. The aim is to understand the city needs and objectives to implement a set of strategies for a sustainable and smartness-oriented regeneration of the city. We have three key priority areas as in most of the smart city projects in Horizon 2020: sustainable urban mobility, sustainable buildings and districts, and integrated infrastructure and processes. Our three lighthouse cities have worked on different aspects of these three priority areas and have developed a catalog of solutions. Mathieu have mentioned some of those in the previous slide, so I'm not going to mention them. There are three key frameworks defined for the model. These are management, evaluation, and finance. As we all know, governance is one of the key success factors in transformations. It requires sufficient human resources, budget, collaboration, and coordination between several departments. Remourban proposes the creation of transformative alliances as highly flexible, adaptable management, or rather coordination and steering process open to improvement and dynamic change. The evaluation framework considers two levels of evaluation: city level, to assess both sustainability and smartness of the city as a whole from a comprehensive and integrated perspective, and project level, to provide a clear identification of the impact of implementation of technologies and solutions on the three key priority areas. Finance is the other framework, the last framework. The transformation of the existing cities into smart cities will not be possible without the establishment of an economic paradigm that makes it economically feasible. Sometimes even public expenditure constraints are withholding public institutions to have the desired interventions. The Remourban project has selected and described 4 different innovative financing schemes that could be used to replicate the smart interventions. These are public-private partnership. This is a well-known one, not a very innovative one, but the others are. The second one is tax increment financing. Third one, green bonds, together with the concept proposal of Green Bonds Consortium, and energy performance contracts. Another aspect of the model are the phases. The urban regeneration model consists of 4 phases: the strategy design, actions design, implementation, and assessment. The output of one phase is usually the input of the next one. Strategy design phase's objective is to implement a set of integrated existing methods and tools that can support the evaluation of the city's current conditions and to identify the strategic goals of the city, which can then be transformed into the smart city strategy. The role of the local government with an open vision and a transformative and locomotive power is the center of this phase. The shared vision of the Smart Urban Transformation Council with the coordination committees who coordinate each main theme, energy, mobility, and ICT in this case, plays an essential role in the creation of synergies between sub-themes and other coordination committees. The proposed management structure is the figure in the below on the slide. Integrated urban plan is the main output of this phase that sets short-term goals and long-term goals and measures for the agreed priorities for the city. These priorities are described using city-level indicators as the main tool. Owen will talk about integrated urban plan within the next couple of minutes. The second phase is the action design phase. Action plan will allocate the strategies or group of actions selected to achieve the strategic objectives defined during phase 1. The coordination committees will be the driving force behind the teams when it comes to action design. Knowledge institutions, technical experts, universities would act as technical advisors or consultants to determine different technologies for smart city technology packages. Transformative alliances also play an important role in the decision-making process for action design. Especially the citizens need to be engaged and part of the transformative alliances to ensure the acceptance and commitment of the actions that will be implemented. The third phase is the implementation phase, and the objective is to implement the interventions for a sustainable and smart city decided by the action plan in the previous phase. After the preparation of the implementation plan, there is the realization, procurement, and commissioning stages that need to be executed really well, and transformative alliances in the aspect of energy, mobility, and ICT are in charge of the actual implementation of defined actions. The fourth phase is the assessment phase. In this phase, the methodology to assess the impact of integrated urban plan is defined based on the previous stage strategy design, action design, and implementation. Strategy validation is based on the assessment framework and takes the perspective of local government to assess the integrated urban plan and its implementation at both levels of project and city. Thank you for listening. Since we don't have much time, I have only made a brief introduction to the urban regeneration model. I will be waiting for your answers after the presentations, all the presentations. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for this introduction, Ezra. Now, one of our questions could be, but what are the cities expecting, and how could this URM or urban regeneration model help to answer these expectations? Owen, as a representative of a city, you can give us some response elements. Owen, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Owen Harvey. I work for Nottingham City Council and I am the Remourban project manager in Nottingham. Nottingham City Council are the task leader for the development of the Remourban Integrated Urban Plan. The Integrated Urban Plan sets out a methodology for how cities can develop structures and plans, enabling them to implement smart and sustainable actions. As task leader, Nottingham City Council is responsible for writing the overall Remourban Integrated Urban Plan and supporting the two lighthouse cities in Valladolid and Tapabassi to complete and develop their integrated urban plans as well. The timeline for this, it started in January 2018 and we will submit the final Remourban Integrated Urban Plan in July of 2019. So within this presentation, I will be talking to you about 4 key areas. One is the integrated urban plan in the broader context of Remourban. And secondly, looking at the demand side, so why do we have an integrated urban plan? What is the purpose of it? Thirdly, looking at the development processes within the integrated urban plan, focusing specifically on the strategy design methodology, and then finally looking at next steps once a city has developed their integrated urban plan. So first of all, if we look at the integrated urban plan in the broader context of Remourban, as you've heard, the urban regeneration model is a highly replicable model to be used by cities that are interested in becoming smarter and more sustainable. The diagram that you see represents the integrated urban regeneration model in chronological order, and the integrated urban plan depicts the result of the first phase, the strategy design phase of this model. So moving on to look at the demand side, the purpose of the integrated urban plan. So this is a document that sets out short and long-term goals and measures for agreed priorities. It also serves to gather all of the information from the steps included in the strategy design methodology, which I will talk through shortly. It also provides a comprehensive summary of the city and its top priorities. It outlines how a city can become smarter and more sustainable in the three key fields of energy, mobility and ICT. So when we are talking about the demand side, what we are actually doing is outlining what a city needs to do to become truly smarter and more sustainable. The integrated urban plan also defines a communication strategy to make sure that citizens and stakeholders are aware of the plans and involved in the implementation of those actions. So moving on to the strategy design methodology. One of the key tasks that we have to undertake as part of the integrated urban plan is progressing through the 9 steps of a strategy design methodology. This methodology is an agreed structure that has been designed for cities to help them progress through when developing an integrated urban plan. So if we move to the next slide. The figure that you'll see on screen now shows the proposed methodology that cities will follow to obtain their integrated urban plan. This consists of 9 steps. So the first step relates to the management strategy, and the goal of this section is to determine who is in charge, who is involved in the process, as well as establishing the rules of the game. So this involves setting up a smart urban transformation council, which is almost like an overarching governance structure. It also involves setting up coordination committees for energy, mobility and ICT, and they will own the 3 strategic strands, and then the TRALs, and again you'll have a TRAL for mobility, TRAL for energy and a TRAL for ICT, and those are the bodies that are responsible for the implementation of the actions. Moving on to the second stage, which is around stakeholder engagement. The goal of this step is to determine the stakeholder engagement strategy before all other steps are embarked upon, and this engagement should remain at the heart of the integrated urban plan throughout the remaining 9 steps. Thirdly, the cluster identification tool. The goal of this step is to determine which cluster from the cluster identification tool the city belongs to and provide recommendations depending on the type of city. Fourthly, we've got the questionnaire step, and this relates more precisely to the specificities of the city, looking at the priority topics, general barriers or problems faced. Fifth step is around the SWOT analysis, so looking at the city, looking at what the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats are, so identifying what the enablers are to smart and sustainable technology, what are the barriers, where are the opportunities. The sixth step, the smartness index and the sustainability index are calculated in order to quantify in a comparable manner the performance of the city against smartness and sustainability indicators. Seventh step, from all the previous stages, this is the time for the city to choose the priority action or key actions it wishes to implement to become a smarter and more sustainable city. The eighth step is the identification of scope and perimeter. So next, the city will need to consider potential technological solutions and key priority actions depending on where it wishes to implement the project. So looking at scale, stakeholders, policy and key stakeholders. Now the final step is the smartness and sustainability objectives, and here the city confirms the objectives it wishes to implement. Now the 10th step of the methodology will actually be the result of the first phase of the model, so writing the integrated urban plan for the city. Following that, the city would then move on to, as Ezra commented earlier, the action design phase, which will move a city much closer towards physical implementation. Hopefully, what you have learned from this presentation is how through the integrated urban plan, cities can set short, long-term goals and measures for agreed priorities. It gathers all of the information from the steps included in the strategy design methodology and provides a comprehensive summary for the city of its top priorities and aspirations to become a smarter and more sustainable city across energy, mobility and ICT fields. So hopefully that was useful information. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to this, and hopefully if you have any questions later on, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. I just wanted to tell it once more. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to use the chat on the right-hand side, on the back, in order to send us your questions. So, if I shortly summarized with the methodologies that you presented, this methodology, with this methodology, you can systematically and clearly define the needs of a city by elaborating an integrated sustainable urban plan to become smarter. But how can we answer these needs? How can we select the right solutions to be implemented? Zoe, could you give us some hints and present us a practical case?
Thank you, Mathieu. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Zoe Lejeune, and I am project manager at AREPS, which is the Economic Development Agency of the city of Seraing in Belgium, which is a follower city in the Remourban project. In this third part of the webinar, we will dive first a little bit deeper in some concrete examples from the follower city of Seraing to illustrate what my colleague Owen has just presented on our methodology to determine the key needs and priorities of a city through our strategy design methodology. So I will show how this methodology actually helped us identifying key smart city projects. Then I will show you how we are working now on how to link these needs, in other words, the demand from the cities in terms of smart solutions in the field of energy, mobility and ICT to the solution tested and approved in Remourban. In other words, the supply side of smart city technology packages. So this is still a work in progress, but we would be very interested to have your feedbacks and questions on this at the end of the webinar. So first, I will highlight here 3 of the steps that have been explained by Owen from Nottingham. I will focus on some steps to show how it actually looks like and what kind of information a city will get by using the methodology. For example, the third step of the strategy design methodology is the cluster identification tool. This tool was designed in the replication work package. Here, based on the analysis of key indicators in the field of mobility, finance, energy, infrastructure, people, the team of Remourban has designed a tool capable of identifying the cluster of EU cities to which a particular city of Europe belongs. So, in order to have this answer, a city has to fill in 41 indicators, and the CIT generates automatically the cluster number and the related descriptions and priorities. You can see in the table on the right part of the slide the example of Seraing. Filling in all the data, the result of the CIT was the cluster number 2, that is representing the center of Europe. The color in the first column, so green, orange or red, informs the city on the importance of taking action in the mentioned field. For example, for mobility in red in the table, it means that the city has a very high private car ratio and a predominance of car in the modal split. This shows that the city, here Seraing, in order to become smarter and more sustainable, should take priority action to shift this model split and develop alternatives. For example, charging stations for electric vehicles, e-buses or e-bikes. So with this first table, the city gets a very generic view on their status and the areas of need for intervention. In the near future, we will also connect those needs and priorities to specific smart city solutions that we call Smart City Technology Packages, or SCTPs in Remourban. This solution will be pre-associated to the clusters and the needs of the city. Another step that I would like to shortly review with you is the SWOT analysis, so the fifth step of the strategy design methodology. Indeed, we have set up a table with several entry points. In the columns, we have the usual issues of a SWOT, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. In the lines, we have set three main categories: energy, mobility, and integrated infrastructure. In each of these categories, subcategories are proposed. For example, in the field of energy, we have 5 subcategories: passive energy interventions such as building envelope retrofit or district-scale retrofit, or energy management, for example, which covers issues such as smart grids. These categories and subcategories are based on the range of smart city solutions that are tested in Remourban. Indeed, each smart city solution is ordered in one specific subcategory, and this smart city solution will be automatically linked to the result from the cluster identification tool that I just explained. So the city, which uses our model, has to identify and explain for each type of solution, knowing already, of course, the result from the previous phases, namely the CIT, their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Based on the information included in this table, in this SWOT analysis by the city, they will be able to better select which smart solutions are best to address their priorities. For Seraing, this SWOT allows the city to pre-select 6 or 7 key types of solutions that were most relevant for us. I will go back to this a little bit after. So the third step that I would like to shortly review with you is the scope of intervention or perimeter. As follower cities, we have selected, like for the demo sites of the lighthouse cities, a district, a neighborhood of the city of Seraing, in which the focus of the analysis is targeted. For Seraing, this district is called Trazenster, and you can see an aerial picture of it on the slide. Even if the final output of this whole process, as my colleague Owen has explained, is an integrated urban plan covering potentially the whole territory of the city, we thought it was also relevant to select an area of deeper analysis for the follower cities, which can then be replicated or upscaled at other levels. On this slide, I just wanted to show you the 2 main case studies that have been selected in Seraing as a result of the strategy design methodology for our city. The top pictures show the soon-to-be Gastronomia food court hall that will be refurbished with ERDF funding. For this project, we will consider several smart city solutions such as PVs on the roof, heating system for the main hall, smart parking solution, charging station for EV. The bottom pictures show the former Ougre Town Hall. This building will be completely retrofitted into student accommodation very soon. So a smart solution for this specific project will be new heating system, smart metering, and individual metering for each housing, PVs on the roof, and so on. The next steps for these 2 projects are: they will be analyzed by partners from our consortium to provide mainly 2 types of solutions. First, a technical analysis on the best smart city solution, which are very specific at this stage and that will be implemented on site. Second, a financial analysis on innovative business models and how can the city actually deliver these solutions. This work is still ongoing at the moment, and a specific methodology to conduct these feasibility studies is being set up and will be part of the Remourban model. Now I will go to the second part of this third part of the webinar, which is really on the connection between the demand and the supply. So on this slide, you can see the methodology that we are developing in Remourban for replication purposes. What we have presented so far is the left part of the picture, the demand of cities through the strategy design methodology. This demand side covers the city needs, priorities, but also the main barriers, notably assessed through the SWOT analysis. Gathering all the information, the city will produce an integrated urban plan. As I've explained previously, the right part is about the supply of smart city solutions that we called smart city technology packages. These smart solutions are focused on the three main areas of Remourban: energy, ICT, and mobility. The work that we are doing at the moment is to think on how to connect the demand from the cities to the supply from the industry. For this purpose, we are working on enablers, that is, on business models and financing mechanisms available for cities, on the engagement of stakeholders in the smart city process, and on the barriers, on the social barriers, political barriers, financial barriers, or technical barriers, faced by our partners in order to include them as good or also as best practices and with solutions on how to overcome those barriers. This final slide of my presentation is also another way of showing our work on the connection between the supply and the demand. Again, on the left, the demand, and on the right, the supply. The demand side leads to a city diagnosis. The supply side is composed with all the SCTPs, so the Smart City Technology Packages or Smart Solutions, delivered, tested, and assessed and evaluated in Remourban, in the lighthouse cities of the project. All the SCTPs are gathered into a global database that we call RISC, for a Replication Information System for Cities. This system will be fed with new solutions and technologies all the time. We are developing in parallel a third tool that is called the SIM, for Cost Implementation Model. Without going into detail in this specific tool, I would like just to mention now that it includes mostly information on the costs related to each intervention, each smart solution, and it is a very useful tool to help cities identify how much it will cost and how to choose accordingly the best smart city solutions. The SCTPs, Smart City Technology Packages, are summarized in tables which cover a wide range of issues. So we are gathering information on the barriers encountered by the city in delivering the solution, on the impacts, on the objective reached, on the payback period, the financial profitability, etc. All this information for each solution is then used to create a tool that we call UP that you can see in red in the center, based on all the information gathered in the SCTPs and in the risk database on the one hand, and on the city diagnosis on the other hand. The UP tool will select the most relevant smart city technologies which will address the problems and the needs of the city using our model. This work is still a work in progress, and we of course welcome any feedbacks or comments that will help us to make it a useful tool for cities across Europe. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I give back the floor to Mathieu.
So thank you, Zoe. So now, after all these exciting presentations, it is time to answer the question that you may have. But since we haven't received any question yet, I will take this opportunity to inform you about information packages prepared by the partners of Remourban. These information packages present several solutions implemented within Remourban and the contact details of responsible for their implementation. So please do not hesitate to register on the Remourban website to be informed about these information packages. If you are interested in communicating on these information packages in your networks, we developed a dissemination partnership that you could join. Then please do not hesitate to contact me, thanks to the email address that you can see on the screen. Otherwise, if you have any very specific question regarding the different presentation or the different parts that have been presented by my colleagues, do not hesitate to use the email address that you have that are presented in front of you. As you heard at the beginning of the presentation of this webinar is recorded and will be put on the Remourban website and also on the YouTube channel of Remourban. So I think that I will let a bit more time for the potential person interested in sending some questions. I will give 2 or 3 minutes for this. Some questions that we could answer now after this presentation by one of the presenter of these different parts. It seems that we have someone preparing a question. The question is, how often do you feed your UP tool with the financial data? This question should be answered by Zoe, if you want. Zoe?
Yes, Mathieu. Thank you for the question. Actually, UP tool is not yet finalized, so we are not really feeding information into the system yet. So I cannot really answer on the frequency of this, but I guess that the idea is really to add information when we have new project implemented, new feedback from partners, then we would add this information into the system. But it's not working, it's not being used at the moment yet. It's still a work in progress.
Okay, thank you for this question. Thank you for this answer from you, Zoe. Since we can't see any other persons writing any question, I think that it is time to thank you very much, all of you, for this organization of this webinar and for your participation. And I wish all of you a great afternoon and a pleasant evening. And as I said, do not hesitate to join through the Remourban website, register to the Remourban website and get the information directly. And do not hesitate to send any specific questions to the different presenters, speakers of this webinar, as you can see on this slide. And otherwise, this webinar has been recorded and will be available if you want to review it. Thus, thank you very much. Have a good afternoon and a pleasant evening. Bye-bye.